Like to welcome all the participants to this webinar. Thank you all for joining. And with this, Mr. Venkatraman will start the proceedings.
On behalf of Nandini Consultancy Center, I have pleasure in extending a hearty welcome to every one of the respected participants for this webinar. My colleague and co-speaker, Mr. Swaminathan, Director Nandini Consultancy Singapore, also joins me in conveying our greetings to the respected participants for this webinar. Before proceeding with this webinar, I would like to say briefly about the methodology of conducting this webinar, which would be roughly around 90 minutes of duration. Today, we have participants with a cross-section of background, including students aspiring to study chemical engineering and biotechnology, students presently studying chemical engineering, biotechnology, or chemical technology, then faculty members from different universities and colleges, and professionals already working in the chemical and allied industry, as well as some senior personnel who have hands-on experience in the field of chemical and allied industry, who have joined us to share their views and also to understand our views with regard to the trends and happenings in the chemical industry. Now, to meet the requirement of the cross-section, people with the cross-section of the background here, what we will do right now is, first we'll briefly run through some details, basic details about the chemical and biotechnology industry, which we'll do it very quickly. After that, we'll go for an in-depth discussion, first with regard to the global scenario of the chemical and allied industry, and then the global trends. And then we'll make a particular reference to scenario in China, which is now having a spectacular growth rate in chemical and allied industries. We will also examine what is the reason for the spectacular growth of the chemical industries in China. After this, we'll talk about the Indian scenario, particularly with regard to the prospects, problems, challenges, and opportunities. Then we will talk about the energy issues as well as the ecological aspects, particularly with reference to green hydrogen. Then we'll briefly talk about career prospects in chemical and biotech industry. And then after this, Mr. Swaminathan, Director Nandini Consultancy Singapore, will briefly talk about the overseas education prospects and whether there's need for overseas education. Now, we have around 14 slides here. So I will exhibit the slide, then wait for 30 seconds to enable you to have a look at it, then start talking on the contents of the slide. Now we go ahead with this. We start with the first slide, vital importance of chemical and biotech sector. Without usage of chemicals, for one reason or the other, most products cannot be produced. While chemicals are directly used to produce various derivative products, chemicals are also used in several allied sectors such as cement, sugar, paper, steel, mining, textile, etc. as different types of inputs. Now, biotechnology is an interdisciplinary field that combines biological sciences with engineering technologies. It combines the theoretical concepts of genetics, molecular biology, biochemistry, embryology, and cell biology, and the practical concepts of chemical engineering. Several biotech products are now under development, and a few synthetic root-based chemicals are now being replaced and substituted by more eco-friendly biotechnology and biotech route. Therefore, it can be seen that the growth in demand. Therefore, it can be seen that the growth in demand in several sectors has direct impact on the growth in demand for chemicals produced by synthetic route and biotech route. In short, it can be said that the chemicals and biotech industries are the nerve centers of growth. Having seen this, less than 5% of the chemicals produced globally today are currently made using biotechnology. But there is great opportunity and potential for rapid development of biotech route-based chemicals in the coming years. This is a brief outline of about the chemical and biotech routes and chemical and biotech products. Now, having seen this, now let us look into the broad division of the chemical industry. First division is, of course, petrochemicals, which involve products like olefin, that is ethylene, propylene, butadiene, and aromatics such as benzene, toluene, and so on. All these products are produced from crude oil or natural gas. Other big division is coal-based chemicals. Now, most of these chemicals or petrochemicals are produced around the world using only crude oil and natural gas. However, in China, the coal-based chemicals are being produced in a very big way. The reason is that China does not have enough crude oil, enough natural gas, and China is a very big importer of crude oil and natural gas from different countries. At the same time, China has large deposits of coal. In view of this reason, China has made spectacular work to develop technology for coal-based chemicals. Today, number of petrochemicals which are used using crude oil and natural gas in different other countries are made from coal in China. This is a very fantastic development of developing appropriate technology and using the technology to produce the product from a raw material which is plentifully available in the country, that is namely coal. Today, China produces methanol from coal, whereas ethanol is produced from natural gas all over the world. China also produces ammonia, polyvinyl chloride, monoethylene glycol, and so many other products from coal today. And from methanol, the China makes from coal, methanol is further converted to olefins, ethylene and propylene. That is called methanol to olefin projects. So from coal, China makes methanol. From methanol, China makes ethylene. China makes propylene. Once both ethylene and propylene are made, they're very strong building blocks from which hundreds of derivative products can be produced and are being produced in China. In short, whatever the world is producing from crude oil and natural gas, China is competently producing from coal, which is an appropriate coal available in the China area. Then we look into the next division, agrochemicals, which is basically fertilizers, such as dicalcium phosphate, such as diammonium phosphate, urea, and all that, and pesticides. Pesticides mean various divisions in pesticides, like pesticides, fungicides, acaricides, weedicides, and so on. There are products like monocultures, butachlor, and all that. Then we have dyes and dyestuffs and pigments. Now, what is the difference between the dyestuffs and pigments? This is one question many people used to ask. See, dyes and pigments are both used to add color to materials, but they differ as to how they work, their particle size, and how they bond to the material. That is the difference. In the case of the pigment, the ready examples are there are inorganic pigments and organic pigments. Titanium dioxide is an example for inorganic pigment. Copper thiocyanate blue is an example for organic pigment. Then there are dyes like azo dyes, reactive dyes, and several other dyestuffs. The next division is chloralkali. Chloralkali is basically caustic soda and soda ash. The caustic soda plant, we also produce as co-products chlorine, hydrochloric acid, and hydrogen. Then another division is fermentation products, which are fermented starch, cane molasses, or fermented using enzymes. Ready examples are products like ethanol, which is produced from cane molasses by fermentation, or L-lysine, which is produced from starch by fermentation. Then there are allied sectors like sugar, paper, cement, paint, etc., which are not really chemical industries, but they use large quantity of the chemical inputs. There are other two divisions in these chemical industries are what we call as the bulk chemicals and specialty chemicals. Bulk chemicals are generally those chemicals which are produced in large quantity from which number of derivative products are produced, and they are also called as building block. On the other hand, they are called specialty chemicals. Specialty chemicals are those which are generally produced in small quantity, which have high value, it's a highly priced item, and there is some sort of a technology intensiveness. Today, there are several specialty chemicals which have been developed by the companies, which are whose technology is considered as a classified information, and such technologies are closely guarded secret. There are several such specialty chemicals being developed. These are an area with huge research and development opportunity. Now, having seen this, now let us go into the broad division of the pharma industry. In the case of the pharma industry, we have got first division is the bulk drugs, what we call as the active pharma ingredients, where the immediate examples are products like paracetamol, ibuprofen, cephalosporin, and all that. Then we have formulations. See, the bulk drugs have been formulated into capsules, injectables, or syrups, powder, and so on for consumption by the humans. Then we have what we call as the contract research activity. This is a very, very big field where companies which have technology who want to produce, what they do is they give the technology, raw material to another organization who have facility for production and then ask them to do it on a contract basis. This is a very big area today in India where a lot of multinational companies are engaging Indian companies to produce product on contract basis and supply to them. This is a very big area today which is fast developing in India. Then there is another activity called biosimilar. The biosimilar means there are products whose patent get expired. So long as the patent is there, nobody can produce the process. Once the patent is expired, they're using the same technology for which earlier companies were producing. You are entitled to use it to produce the product. This is called biosimilar. This is also another growing area in India today, and this is all the broad divisions of the pharma industry. Now let us look into the broad divisions of the biotech industry. In the case of the biotech industry, first segment is what we call the biopharmaceuticals. See, the biopharmaceuticals are generally produced from materials which are naturally present in living organisms using recombinant DNA technologies. That's what we call as the biopharmaceuticals. Then there's another area called bioservices. In the case of the biopharmaceuticals, of the total biotech industry, the revenue share of the biopharmaceuticals is around 62%. These are the highest market share in this biotech industry, biopharmaceuticals. Then the bioservices mainly include clinical trials, which normally companies do before introducing the bulk drugs. And now then there's also a contract research organization. Earlier, what I said was a contract manufacturing. Here, what I am saying is a contract research organization. Companies give it to the companies give the product or name the product, give the money, ask the companies to develop the research. This is an area where China is making a very big headway. Several international companies are now asking Chinese companies or Chinese universities to develop the research for the product because of the cost effectiveness. This is called bio. Then next division is called bioagri. Bioagri consists of hybrid seeds, transgenic crops, biopesticides, biofertilizers. See, the biopesticides is called product like Decoderma, BT, neem, and all that. The biofertilizers is again another area. It's naturally produced biofertilizers. The problem in India today is these biofertilizers and biopesticides are considered to be eco-friendly products. There's a lot of people campaigning against the use of synthetic fertilizers and synthetic pesticides because of the toxic effect and also the residual toxicity they can provide. However, the ground reality today is the biofertilizers and biopesticides are not able to replace synthetic pesticides to any significant real level. What is the reason for the situation? The reason is the biofertilizers have short shelf life that they have to use very quickly, and they are very temperature sensitive. And user methods, packaging and all this has to be very carefully done. And user technology, user in the field, agriculture field, is also very, very sensitive and has to be done very carefully. Normally, in the case of the pesticides or fertilizer synthetic, people use just throw it away on the soil, on the plant. This cannot be done like this. So the farmers are not reluctant to use the biofertilizers and biopesticides, and also they are of the view that efficacy of the biofertilizers and biopesticides are not on par with the synthetic pesticides. I will give you a brief example. Neem is a biopesticide. It's called neem is called azadirachtin. That is the active ingredient from the neem. When neem is used as a pesticide, azadirachtin, what really happens here is the pests do not die immediately. When you spray this azadirachtin on the field, what does happen? The pests do is the pests do not die immediately, but they develop a distaste. So they don't eat anymore. They starve. So after this, they die only after 2 or 3 days. They don't die immediately. So what the farmers see is when you paste the synthetic pesticide, immediately you will see these pests dying down. Whereas in the case of this neem azadirachtin, which is a biopesticide, when he sprays that, the product will the pest will simply keep going away and will go and die elsewhere, not here after 2 or 3 days. So the farmers don't see the pest dying. Oh, they are very apprehensive about the use of this. These are all the reasons why biofertilizer and biopesticides are not taking up or not able to replace the synthetic route. What I am making is a very controversial observation because there are a lot of people who say under ideal conditions, biopesticide, biofertilizer are on par with the synthetic fertilizers and synthetic pesticides, but generally farmers do not seem to agree. Then this bioagri generally holds 15% of the biotechnology field. Then we have got bioindustry, that is called enzymes. Enzymes are used for the fermentation. A lot of enzymes like amylase, phytase, lactase, and so on. Then finally, we come to bioinformatics. This is one electronic databases of various biological systems. This is again a small area. This holds only 1% of the global biotech industry. In broad segments, what is happening? Now, having seen this, let us go into the global chemical industry. This is a very interesting slide where you will find China holds around production value of production in China is as much as 2390 billion European Union European currency EU currency. As against China's 2390, next fellow EU European Union, which consists of 27 countries together, they make only 760 billion EU. That means look at the difference between what China is making, what the next fellow in the area EU, that consists of 27 countries, mind you, like France, Germany, and all that, together, they're nowhere near China. Then after this, they got Japan, they got South Korea, Brazil, and India. India is what against China's 2390 billion EU. India's share is only 115 EU. We are nowhere near China as far as the production is concerned. And in the global area, India ranks 7th, nowhere near China. And what we have to particularly see here is after India, you got Taiwan. Taiwan is such a small region, probably Chennai city and Chengalpet, a little area beyond that, is the total territory of Taiwan. Taiwan is having as much as 89 EU billion value share for chemical, whereas India, with 140 crore people, with the last land area, we are able to have 1150. I'm making this point only to make it very, very clear that India is nowhere near international size or international companies in production volume of the chemicals in the present era right now. That means we need to have a very, very long way to go. Having seen this, now we look into what is the key trends in the global chemical industry. One of the first point here is what is very important for a chemical industry. You can produce a product, but what you need is you have to market the product. When can you market the product? You need buyers. So what is happening in the developed countries like USA, China, USA, Japan, or West European countries and all this, the population is virtually stagnant. The production has reached a nearly a saturation level. Then the region produces enough for the country, for those people. So when you produce enough, there's no scope for further expansion of the capacities or further boosting the production. So naturally, they have to look for market elsewhere. Those market elsewhere are the emerging economies like India or China or Philippines or Malaysia, Thailand, and so on. So the focus of the global chemical industry, the multinational companies, to enter into emerging economies in one big way. That's one of the very important aspects that we need to keep in mind. Why several of the multinational companies are galloping to China, galloping to India and elsewhere, because this is the place where market is there. Whereas they have technology. What do you do with the technology unless there is somebody to buy your product? This is one of the aspects of the emerging economy. Secondly, very, very important thing is mostly these multinational companies and large companies focus investment in emerging economies depending upon the incentives provided by the local government. So there's a huge competition between the countries, the emerging economies. So whoever gives the best of terms, countries go away. That is where India still has a lot of do, but a lot of proactive steps are taken. Now look at this. In China, several multinational companies like BASF, like DuPont, like Evonik, like Ineos, like Celanese, so many other multinational companies are operating in China today, whereas many of them are not so far operating in India. So any multinational company you say, or any large company you say, you'll find they have a place in China, whereas they don't have a place in India or elsewhere else. That means still have a long way to go. Then another important aspect of the global trend is due to ecological compulsions, more eco-friendly processes are being developed around the world. So new technologies are being developed. For example, I give you an example. Epichlorohydrin is a product which is reacted with a bisphenol to produce epoxy resin. Until a few years back, epichlorohydrin was produced from propylene, which is a petrochemical feedstock. Now the entire world is switching on to produce epichlorohydrin from glycerin, which is a biotech route. So in India also, there was one epichlorohydrin plant from propylene, which has been closed now. Now another two plants are coming up. One plant has already come up. They are going producing epichlorohydrin from glycerin. This is a classic example to see how synthetic route is being replaced by biotech route. Similarly, lysine, which is an amino acid, that can produce ethylene. Now people are producing only from fermentation of starch. This is again another big route. Then the fact today is biotech routes are really challenging the synthetic route. Still, it's only remaining as a challenge. Still have a long way to go, particularly from the point of the cost and all that. But given the eco-friendly desire of the consumers all over the world, the biotechnologies and these biotech routes are playing a very big role in the international trend in the global chemical industry. Several companies are working on this. Now, finally, another very, very important thing in the global trend is the zero effluent discharge. Now, in developed countries, you can never allow effluent to go out anywhere. It has to be necessarily treated. If you are not able to treat it, then you have no alternative other than closing the product. This is one reason why international companies, multinational companies, or developed countries are now started buying dyestuff in a large way since they have stopped the production of dyestuff because of the pollution. That is why Indian dye-stuff industry has made a very big export market because Western countries or developed countries have stopped making many of the dye-stuff here, and they are now buying the product from developed countries like India. Then another important thing is reinvesting the business models to optimize profit. That's again very, because world is becoming very competitive and companies are fighting. So the companies have to necessarily reduce the cost of operations or optimize the cost of operations to improve the margin. So they're all reinventing the models, business models. There are so many other business models are there, like make or buy decision, or marketing universal or giving to trading houses for marketing. These are all some of the business models on which people are working. And finally, one aspect which we need to keep in is the trading houses, that the multinational trading houses, which are quite a few in number now, are playing a very big role in marketing the chemical products across the world. So trading houses have become a very important area on which also, though there are a number of trading houses in India today, not many of them, any or probably none of them can be called as global sized trading house. Now, trading earlier means that you just market the product. It is no more simply a marketing product. Trading houses have to become highly specialized. They need to have domain knowledge. They must have complete data processing facilities and all that. They have become very sophisticated. International trading houses have become very sophisticated right now. They, by way of customer relationships, by way of feedback of informations, and acting as a conduit between the manufacturers and the buyers, they are playing a very big role. Again, this is an area where India has not made a much breakthrough at all, where there's a lot of scope for this particular area. Now, these are all generally the large trend in the global chemical industry. Having seen this, now let us have a look at the scenario in China. The overall scenario in China is very interesting. First thing is, China is the world's largest producer of over 220 types of industrial products. Over 220 types of industrial products, China is the largest or almost the largest producer in the world, which include fertilizers, steel, aluminium, coal, vehicles, computers, and so on. Another important aspect of China is China industrial base that include automotive, electronics, pharmaceuticals, construction, consumers of all of which consume large quantity of these chemicals. Now, what is the share of China in the global manufacturing? Look at this figure carefully. In the year 1995, China's share in the global manufacturing was only 3%. As a matter of fact, around 4 or 5 decades back, the position of India as a chemical manufacturer and position of China as a chemical manufacturer were almost the same. Maybe some people even say around 5 decades back, India was better placed than China in the chemical manufacturing. In the year 2000, in the year 1995, China's share in the world manufacturing was only 3%. Today, in 2023, China's share has gone up as much as 31%. It's a phenomenal rise. They are holding the market share. Another very important aspect you have to look into it is what is the share of China in the global growth? Now, globally, chemical industries are growing. Different countries are contributing to the growth. The contribution of China to the overall growth of chemical industry in 2001 to 11 was 27%. Now it is as much as 39%. That is, China is a very significant player for the global growth in demand for the chemical products. In other words, suppose China's growth comes down due to any reason, then what is happening is international growth of chemical industry will rapidly slide down and a big recession will take place and several companies will not be able to market the product. This is one reason where it is generally said jocularly, if China sneezes, world shivers. That's what is said about the China. He explained the China's share in the global market. Now, what is the export? China's share in the global export today is 17.6%. Largest producer of chemical in the world, China, accounts for 41.17% of the global production. Having looked into this, now we'll briefly discuss as what is the reason for the spectacular growth of China chemical industries in the last few years. The spectacular growth is absolutely right, and China deserves it. What is the reason? How they have achieved such a phenomenal growth? One is China is a large country with a huge territory, with a huge population. So therefore, the market base in China and demand potential for products in China is quite high. India is also a large country, but China is much bigger than India in the population. The buying power of Chinese is much higher than the buying power in India. So, right, China's large demand potential. When there's a large demand potential, obviously there's an incentive to create large production. That's one of the reasons for growth in China. Second, very, very important aspect is, or the most important aspect is, the proactive industry policies of government of China. Though we know that China claims that it is a communist country where total capitalism or private capitalism is totally banned, China doesn't do this. It says it is a communist country, but China freely permits the private sector to operate. It encourages the multinational companies to come into China. In China today, there are three types of chemical industries. One is 100% owned multinational companies like BASF or Mitsubishi or Dow or Ineos or Celanese or British Petroleum, so many other multinational companies who have projects in China which are 100% owned by them. And the second category is joint ventures, ventures between multinational companies and local companies in China. And third category is domestic companies, totally domestic companies in China. Now, what is happening in China, because the proactive policies of the government of China, where they provide very friendly conditions, where labor strikes are all totally avoided, where the protection of the multinational companies, interests of the multinational companies are very well protected, several multinational companies are not only setting up production ventures in China, they are also setting up in a big way research ventures in China. Dow has a very big research organization in China. BASF has a very big research organization in China. The reason is China's technical talent is now extremely progressing very, very rapidly. Standard of education of China, particular technology, is said to be very exemplary right now. These are all sharp contrast to what we have in India. So when multinational companies set up projects or set up projects for research activity, inevitably they employ locals, Chinese. And so inevitably technology gets transferred. So what is happening here is the domestic companies in China, because of this advantage of being seen or associated with the multinational companies, are catching up with the multinational companies in a big way. Now, multinational companies, they say domestic companies in China are competing with the multinational companies, not only in the Chinese market, but also in the global market. There are very big companies in China, like Sinopec, Chem China, and all this. They're large size companies, none of which we don't have anywhere in India today. And those companies are not only competing with the multinational companies internationally, but they're also acquiring multinational companies abroad. So this is a type of rapid progress China has made so far. Now, there is a healthy competition between the multinational companies and domestic companies in China. Another reason why multinational companies prefer China in a big way is when they operate in China, they not only sell the product in China, but use that base to operate the product, to sell the product in other Asian countries and African countries. Because they feel their interests are well secure in China. Suppose in countries like India, you put up a multinational company, put up a project, we see several examples, they are not due to labor strikes and so many reasons. Those kind of things are not happening. So the multinational companies are also using China production base as a base for marketing the product, not only in China, but in all parts of the world. And again, in the process, China gets benefited. After all this, one more thing you have to recognize is the entrepreneurial initiatives of private sector in China. which is phenomenally good. Anybody who has the opportunity to deal with Chinese companies know this very clearly. They will not dispute this fact at all. Suppose you want a product, you send a mail to China, you will get a reply in 2 hours. Same product, you send a mail to somewhere in the USA or Germany or UK, probably you will not get a reply, or you will get a reply after 4 or 5 days. Sometimes they don't reply at all. In spite of the fact they have the reason, because they will ask you all kinds of queries. This is what is called as aggressive marketing of Chinese. That seems to be, somebody was telling me, that is an inbuilt system in Chinese mindset itself to be aggressive. The aggressive marketing capability or marketing tendency of China is one thing which enabled China to dominate the entire international market by having a very big export trade. So China has expanded capacities. There are a lot of products in China whose capacities are much more than what they need. For example, in the case, take citric acid. China has 100 citric acid producers in the world today. Having China started producing citric acid big way, several citric acid producers, international companies have stopped producing because China is dominating the entire market for citric acid. They are giving price competitiveness with so many benefits. Citric acid, almost 80% of world production of citric acid is now made in China. There's one citric acid plant in India that has been closed now because of the competition of China. India imports around 1 lakh ton of citric acid per year right now without production. Then finally, aggressive global marketing efforts of what we told. These are the general trend and briefly as the basic reason for China's rapid progress. Now let us have a look at the Indian chemical industry scenario. The Indian chemical industry, as I told you, the size of the Indian chemical industry is only the fifth in the stands seventh in the global market. We are nowhere near China, nowhere near even European countries. We still have a very long way to go. Now, chemical industry size in India is roughly around 121.5 billion US dollar. Contribution of the chemical industry to overall Indian industry output is just around 13%. This is not very significant figure because overall industry output itself is not high by international standards. So only 13%. Then the share of chemical in global export trade is 2.5%. China's share in the global market, as I told you, is 17.5%. As against this, India's share in the global chemical market is just only around 2.5%. Though India is the seventh largest chemical producer in the world and fourth largest chemical producer in Asia, still India's share is only so much. Now let us look at the pharma, Indian pharma industry. This is a good sign. Third largest pharmaceutical producer in the world by volume and 13th largest by value are Indian pharmaceutical units. India, we are making a very big breakthrough in the pharmaceutical field as formulators and those kind of things. And the share of pharma in the global export trade by Indian units is now 5.71%. Now, this is a very good area, but pharma is rapidly growing because they are able to get a breakthrough in international market and the quality parameters are globally competitive. And generally, there seems to be a lot of satisfaction about the pharmaceutical products of abroad. To come to the case of biotech industry, the global biotechnology industry, India's share is hardly 2 to 3% right now. Only we have still a very long way to go. Having looked into this, let us look into this. What is really happening in Indian chemical industry? Scenario. What is the ground reality? There are a lot of issues. One issue is, particularly in the last 10 or 12 years, there has been steady growth in demand for chemicals and allied products in India at impressive rate. There's no doubt about it. Demand is going up very high because of the overall economic growth and GDP growth of 6 to 7% per annum in a consistent manner. However, while the demand is going up rapidly, capacity buildup is not taking place rapidly. So what happened in this situation? India becomes a net importer. Many requirements of Indian chemical industries are now, many Indian industries are now made by import due to lack of domestic capacity in India. Now, why India is not able to build up domestic capacity? Is it due to investment constraints or is it due to technology constraints? There are some investment constraints, but it's no more a picture right now because public issues are getting oversubscribed. People are willing to invest in the industries, provided reasonable offers are made. So investment cannot be considered as a constraint. And multinational companies, overseas organizations are willing to extend loan for India also because of the improving image of India. Real constraint is a technology constraint. We do not have technology for several products. For example, I'll tell you, there are around more than 30 urea plants in the country. For setting up 31st urea plant, we go and acquire technology from abroad. This is the case everywhere. So what is happening here is technology standards in India has to be necessarily imported. In other words, Indians are able to put up chemical projects to the extent that the overseas companies or overseas technology suppliers are willing to provide you technology. We find a pathetic case here where we go to Taiwan, such a small country, South Korea, such a small country, seeking technology for the projects. There are several project opportunities today in India which are stranded due to want of technology. And when you acquire technology from abroad from people, the fees offered is very exorbitant. What is happening here is, in India, we want to set up a project broadly based on Indian demand, not on the international demand. So when you want to put up a project based on Indian demand, you find the size of the project is not globally competitive. When it is not globally competitive, then what really happens is when international companies come and give technology, they want big money. The type of big money, the demand for transferring technology cannot be provided by small capacity plants. This obviously means we have to go for a large capacity plant of targeting the global market. There seems to be a psychology mix-up as far as the entrepreneur is concerned, on which I do not want to talk more because it won't be right now. So basically, another problem here is excessive dependence on Indian market. And the people want to go for an export market only to the extent a small portion of the production, not the entire production. So when you are not going to be willing to enter an export market in a big way, then what is happening? The capacities of plant are small. When the capacities of plant are small, the cost of production becomes high. And higher technology inputs cannot be given. Product development efforts cannot take place. So this is the problem. Why you are not able to get the international export market in a big way is due to lack of domestic capacity. Unless you set up a large capacity plant, you will not be able to get into a big way in international market. This is a trend that the Indian entrepreneurs have to think about. There are so realizations are coming, but if the speed of realization is enough, it's a $1 million question. The inability to ever the export market, as I told you, trading houses in India are not on par with international trading houses. You have necessarily depend upon the international trading houses for marketing the product. International trading houses are willing to take the product for marketing only if there will be a large volume of the product to be given to them. Most of the Indian companies produce small quantity for export market, so it is not attractive for international trading houses. So it's a very vicious cycle. That is what is happening in Indian chemical industry. Now this is the issue. Now let us look into one picture of chemical products that are not sold in India. Next slide will go in. This is a very strange figure. See, look at the picture. We have taken a number of products which are not produced in India, which are imported, considerably imported. For example, styrene, there is no production in India. We are importing as much as 8,77,000 tons per annum of styrene. Styrene is produced only from benzene. Benzene is available in India adequately. And ethylene is required. Ethylene can be imported. It's not adequately available in India. But still, 8,77,000 tons is being imported. Take the acrylonitrile, no production, 1,75,000 tons. It keeps on going. Then there are products like titanium dioxide, where India is importing around 2.4 lakh tons per annum. However, the fact is, raw material for titanium dioxide is ilmenite. India has 12% of the total world reserves of ilmenite are available in India. In spite of the huge availability of raw material, India is not stepping up the production of titanium dioxide. We produce hardly 30,000 tons. Look at the 30,000 tons India produces. with regard to the global production of around 7 million tons of titanium dioxide, and we are importing 2.4 lakh tons of titanium dioxide. Can you justify this? This is the point of condition. We have shortlisted only a few products. I can go on keeping so many other products where there is no production in India. Now, if you look into examine each one of the product very, very carefully, you will find there is no reason for not producing, because we are importing, obviously there is a demand in the country. The problem here is lack of technology, lack of domestic technology. We have army of scientists in CSR labs, and private sector have R&D labs, but most of the private sector R&D labs are really functioning as quality optimization laboratories rather than basic research organizations. CSR is having a lot of scientists, they're developing technologies, but still they are not able to convince the Indian project promoters that technology that they develop will be globally competitive. These are all some issues that we face in India as far as this industry is concerned. That is why Indian chemical industry seems to be at the crossroad as on today. These are issues that have been tackled. Government of India is looking into this. They have introduced a lot of PLI scheme, that is a production linked incentive scheme, asking people, giving money, incentives, set up projects and all that. But the ball is clearly in the court of the Indian project entrepreneurs, and they will have to do some mental search for this. Having looked into this, let us go into the energy issues. Very, very important issue. Energy issues. Just have a look at this slide. Energy and ecological issues. Now, India has promised to the world that India will have zero emission target by the year 2070. That means by 2070, India will not emit sulfur dioxide, it will not emit nitrous oxide, it will not emit methane, it will not emit carbon dioxide. That is what is zero emission. Now, where does this emission come from? It comes from use of fossil fuels like coal, crude oil, natural gas. Natural gas is the methane. During the transportation of natural gas, a lot of methane comes out. That's also causing pollution. And the methane also comes from the large livestock population in the country. So this is a very big issue. Having looked into this, what is the crude oil scenario in India? Indian production of crude oil is just only around 30 million. India imports as high as 240 million tons of crude oil. And every year, the import level of crude oil is going at 5 to 6%. In the case of natural gas too, India is producing hardly 30 billion cubic meter. Almost equal quantity of natural gas is being imported. In other words, it means India is heavily dependent on crude oil and natural gas to sustain the Indian chemical industry and sustain the fuel. And the price of the crude oil goes up in the international market, entire Indian economy gets upset. Now, virtually crude oil production is stagnant, natural gas production is stagnant. There is no feasibility of increasing the production of crude oil and natural gas in India substantially to meet the Indian requirement. Then what is the alternative? India has a lot of coal deposits. In the last 10 years, the production of coal has been substantially increased, roughly to a level of around 1,000 million tons per annum. But coal is a very big pollutant. Coal is a very big pollutant, and because of carbon dioxide emission, India has committed to reduce the emission by 2070, but India continues to produce more coal for the production of power and the variety of other things. Now, government of India is also taking steps to use the coal for the production of chemicals. So it is now encouraging coal gasification projects. It has asked the number of companies to volunteer, to offer, to take the incentive from the government of India to set up coal gasification project. A few companies have been shortlisted for doing this. That means, as of now, India has no plans given the production of coal or given the use of coal or crude oil. In this circumstance, how are you going to do under zero emission? What India is doing right now, is the focus on the renewable like solar power, wind power, and all this. The solar power and wind power has been, phenomenally capacity has been built up. India has set a target of 500 gigawatt of energy by the year 2030. Possibly it may reach that particular target in the coming years. But the problem with the solar and wind power is if you have got a 500 megawatt of power of solar, capacity utilization is only 20%. Get hardly 100 gigawatt. You don't get more than that. Mainly because solar power is not available throughout the day. Wind is not available to adequate speed throughout the year. So there's a limitation for this renewable energy. To what extent it can solve the problem. Second thing India is focusing on is what we call the green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is produced by water electrolysis. What happens with the green hydrogen is the green hydrogen project is extremely power intensive. For 1 kilogram of green hydrogen produced, you require roughly around 500 megawatt of power. Now here, the cost of production of green hydrogen by water electrolysis is as much as $5 to $6 per kilogram. As against this, the gray hydrogen produced from natural gas, the cost of production is only $2 per kilogram. So who will buy the green hydrogen when this cost of production of the green hydrogen is 2 or 2.5 times more than the cost of production of gray hydrogen produced from natural gas? Because this is supposed to, green hydrogen is supposed to replace this gray hydrogen. Now here again, what is the problem here is the cost of production is number one issue. Then availability of power. When you want to produce green hydrogen by water electrolysis, the power that has been supplied must be eco-friendly. You can't produce power from using coal of fossil fuel like coal and use the power for production of green hydrogen. If you do that, it's no more green hydrogen. So you need renewable power to produce green hydrogen by water electrolysis. But where is the renewable power available? Given the target for the green hydrogen production that India has, they are not going to get enough quantity of renewable energy. That's again a big issue that has been tackled right now. The other issue here is electrolyzer. Government is taking a lot of steps. I am not criticizing anyway, but I'm only talking about the ground reality. Now, as far as this electrolyzer, there are two types of electrolyzers. One is the conventional alkaline electrolyzer, other is called PEM. PEM is more expensive, but you get a high pure hydrogen, but again, it is not going to reduce the cost of production. So how you are going to produce green hydrogen at a cost that is acceptable to the industry, consumer, is $1 million question. Will the government be able to give so much of incentives and subsidy for green hydrogen? It is impossible to do because the quantity of the green hydrogen required for various applications. Then what is the alternative the government of India is doing? Government will take steps to blend ethanol with petrol. When you do with petrol, then probably the crude oil consumption will come. Then government is going to take steps for producing electric vehicles. Again, electric vehicle, there is a problem. For production of electric vehicles, you need lithium-ion battery. We are not producing lithium-ion cell. Only some few projects are coming up right now. India is a big importer of lithium-ion cell right now. Not only this, for in the green hydrogen also, you require really eco-friendly power for generation of power. You can't use a fossil fuel to use base power to use the e-vehicle. Then it is a negative. Where is the renewable energy? It is not going to be there. Then the government of India is also focusing on biofuel in a small way. There are other options available for the country. One is algae biofuel. Algae is an eco-friendly crop, quick-growing crop that contains around 20% oil or 25% oil, depending on the particular cell. Now it doesn't need anything. It requires only a solar power, and it requires dirty water is enough, and it can be put up anywhere near seashore or anywhere. So it doesn't come in conflict with the agricultural land because it can be grown in the wasteland. India has to go in a very big way for algae biofuel. Unfortunately, enough attention has not been made for this. Other option for India is to produce methanol as ethyl alcohol from beet molasses rather than cane molasses. Cane molasses, is a water-intensive crop. Beet molasses is not a water-intensive crop, number one. From beet molasses, you can produce ethanol. Cane molasses take around 9 to 10 months Beet pyrolysis take only 6 months, but unfortunately, beet pyrolysis is not produced in India, whereas it is produced in a very big way in several countries abroad, particularly in Europe and Russia. India has to make some big headway into this. These are all the broad issues with regard to energy. Now we talk a little about green hydrogen. Green hydrogen is a very interesting area because you find a paper every day. Every day there will be a reference to green hydrogen from one corner of the paper or other corner of the paper. The green hydrogen, as I told you just now, the cost of production of green hydrogen is around $5 to $6, as around $2 for gray hydrogen produced from natural gas. So that is one problem. What is the government of India doing right now? Government of India is now targeting to produce 5 million ton of green hydrogen by the year 2030. Green hydrogen is very popular across the world and it is universally accepted as an eco-friendly product for use as a fuel or use as a feedstock to some extent. So government of India is going ahead with to produce 5 million ton of green hydrogen by 2030. The question about the cost of production of green hydrogen, whether it will be able to compete with the green hydrogen, whether it will be sustainable to use green hydrogen for the production of products like ammonia and fertilizer, it's a question that still, in my view, has not been adequately clarified. The government of India has also decided to set up 15,000 megawatt electrolyzers capacity. Huge, and they are going to spend some 40,000 crores in this particular thing. Then, government of India is also allotting 12,500 crore rupees to provide incentives for production of green hydrogen by various units. These are all government of India is taking very earnest steps with regard to production of green hydrogen. But the issue is even 20% of the global hydrogen requirement, which comes to several millions of tons, can be met by the green hydrogen now or in the foreseeable future. Now, what is happening here is we got international climate conferences. Recently, one that took place in Azerbaijan. Now, what international, the 29th conference, that's called COP conference, has taken place. Every conference, a lot of loud talk is being made about the climate warming because temperature should not be exceed more than 1.5 degrees centigrade growth. It is already happening, 1.5 degrees centigrade growth. When it happens, seawater rises, climate gets disturbed, ice started melting. Now, what is the solution for this? We have been repeatedly talking about reducing the use of fossil fuel, but fossil fuel is not being reduced. Neither the producer of the crude oil and natural gas are willing to reduce the production of crude oil and natural gas, nor the consumer of coal or crude oil is willing to reduce the reduction. So if we ask these people to reduce the production of crude oil, consumption of crude oil, then the developing countries will not agree because they have no alternative other energy source. To sustain the economy, they need this. So to sustain the economy today, the coal and crude oil has been necessarily used by the emerging economies. There is no alternative. So given this factor, there seems to be a lot of conflict of interest and there is lack of clarity as to how we are going to meet the global climate crisis caused by the global warming, which seems to be a real threat to the global humanity and welfare. Having looked into this, let us look briefly into the carrier options. See, what really happened in the carrier option is we have made a very quick study on this subject. Most of the universities and colleges in India do not brief the students adequately well about the what type of opportunities are there, what type of need is there, and how to for the students to make themselves ready or to find a job avenue suitable for their particular expertise, liking, or particular taste. Those things have not been done. So what is happening here is most of the students coming out of the colleges or universities, particularly biotechnology engineering, they do not know what kind of job you want. You find the same situations, there people do engineering for a long time and then go for management side, do subject totally different from whatever they studied for 5 years, or go into computer engineering, computer technology software. Again, they share the platform, share the desk with a student of economics or student of politics and student of chemical engineering. They all do the same job. This is a particular thing. That means there's a huge level of confusion among the students about what they should do. So what we have done here is we have find out what could be a job avenues for the students from various angles. It's very difficult to discuss this subject here in a short time because we are already 1 hour more, 1 hour spent on this. So I will just leave it at this. If any student wants a particular clarification on this career option, they can dial me, call me. I will be pleased to have a talk with them. With this, now I request Swaminathan, our director Nandini Consultancy, to speak briefly about the international overseas education and prospects and how students should approach this and how parents should also approach this for the sake of their wards. Mr. Swaminathan.
Yeah. Hello. Since there are many students here, I think this is a topic that would be of particular interest to them in terms of study abroad and also jobs abroad. I think a lot of students in India these days are the number of students in India these days who are venturing to study and wanting to work abroad is only increasing every year. So it's a vast topic by itself, but I will spend a few minutes trying to sensitize you to some of the important things that anyone who wants to study and work abroad need to be aware of. See, there are people who want to study undergraduate abroad. I mean, that used to be about 20-25 years back. That was not a very popular thing, but it has increasingly become very popular even to study undergraduate abroad. And particularly even in countries like United States and UK. There are, and of course, it is always popular for people to study undergraduate in India and then pursue masters or pursue PhD outside of India. That continues to remain strong today. But I think some of the most important aspects, I would say, are if I were to classify what aspects you need to be sensitive to, are I would put them as language, costs, job prospects, and even visa routes. I mean, these are increasingly important issues to worry about when you want to think about studying and working abroad. Every country has its own uniqueness. I mean, previously, about 20-25 years back, people used to go to broadly only English-speaking countries such as United States and UK and Singapore. Today, people also venture to non-English speaking countries. So if I were to say the popular English speaking countries continue to be Australia, Canada, UK, USA, whereas non-English speaking countries like Germany, France, some of the other smaller European countries like Netherlands and all have also started becoming quite popular. So each of them have their own challenges. Obviously, in the non-English speaking countries, language is a big challenge in the sense that one must have to invest some time and energy mastering the language, because that helps study as well as in the job prospects as well, because language is a very important factor in those countries. So one has to realize when one is making a choice of the country as to whether one wants to study and work in an English-speaking or non-English-speaking country, because that would determine how you want to go about it. The second important factor is probably because the whole thing about working and studying abroad is a lot about cost versus benefits. The cost is a very important factor because the cost of studying abroad is vastly more expensive than the cost of studying in India. If you were to take the most popular destination, which is the United States, a lot of students these days are venturing to study undergraduate. Even undergraduate education rarely carries any scholarships. These days, even postgraduate education doesn't come with that much scholarships. Universities are strapped for funds, and they prefer to have fully fee-paying international students. So when you take that into consideration, the cost of education in the United States is these days quite expensive. So one has to be very, very cognizant about the amount of expenditure one is undergoing, and balance it against the prospects of getting suitable employment that will make sense from a cost-benefit point of view. And if you were to take a ballpark figure for studying in the United States, it can be as high as $80,000 to $90,000 per year if you're studying undergraduate, and somewhat similar costs even in postgraduate, depending upon the kind of university you're studying in. So that's a pretty hefty expenditure. And if one is going to study there and come back to India to find a job, then obviously the risk reward, I mean, the cost versus benefit is not really the same. So that is something that one has to be very, very careful about before venturing. Of course, the most important aspect in this cost benefit is the job prospects, because it's very easy to go and study, because every university wants a student who wants to study there because he's going to pay the fees. So every university loves such a student. The important thing is to be able to find a suitable employment in those countries if one is going to spend that amount of expenditure. Now, that is the tricky part, because increasingly finding jobs is not in abundance in every Western country. Economies are slowing. It is not the same as what it was before in terms of being able to find jobs, like maybe it was 20, 25 years back when jobs were in far more abundance. So one has to be very careful in understanding what it takes to find jobs in those countries before you venture abroad. I mean, I will take again United States as somewhat of an example because it's the most popular destination, but some of these factors apply to every country. So if you take even a country like United States, it is very important to figure out what kind of economic cycle the country is going through, because that determines the kind of job market the country finds itself in. For example, if you take the last 20, 25 years, there have been periods of time, let's say between 2000 to around 2002, 2003, when the country was in severe recession. Period between, let's say, 2008 and 2011, when again there was a period of severe recession. And subsequently, things have been fine, but it is another period of recession is only inevitable. I mean, economics runs in cycles, and you don't get a boom forever, and you get a boom and a bust. But if you graduate at the time when the economy is not doing very well, it doesn't matter which college you graduate from. It doesn't matter where you study, what you study. The job market is very, very tight. And when a job market becomes very tight, then the natural consequences that local students are preferred, international students are not preferred, and job become very, very difficult. I know personally many anecdotes in 2008 to 2011 cycle, for example, when people studied, spent a lot of money and studied and had to return back because the economic cycle was very bad. It has nothing to do with them personally, nothing to do with the quality of the education. It's just that the nature of the economy is such that there just aren't enough jobs in the market. So, like, for example, this year and last year, the technology sector has found itself in a very, very severe crunch because of a tremendous amount of layoffs that have happened in even in areas like computer software. So a lot of companies are not hiring entry-level graduates because they're trimming the workforce. They had hired a lot post-COVID. And so people who are graduating this year are finding the job market to be extremely tight. Many people are actually returning back, and they're not just not finding jobs. And when such things happen, companies that are in the process of laying off employees are not in a position to hire international candidates at all. They cannot justify the visas, and they will never apply for it. So this year has been, for example, particularly bad and tight for many students who have graduated. So people try to extend their studies and do many things to stay on, but it's a process of a tremendous anxiety and not a very pleasant prospect. The other trends that are happening that are determining job market are the rapid advancement of automation, AI. These are totally redefining jobs. The jobs that were of old are being redefined by companies. New skill sets are being demanded, and the people who don't match these skill sets are not really wanted. I mean, it's something to be very, very careful about. And automation and AI are also resulting in more suitability for outsourcing many jobs. So you see that a lot of jobs are in fact even coming to India in many sectors. Design related jobs are coming to India, where previously jobs that could be done in the US are getting offshored even to India. So it has become so this trend is only going to accelerate, and the nature of the job market is getting rapidly redefined. So one has to understand what skill sets, what kind of jobs one is going to angle for even before you embark on your study. So it makes it harder for newcomers to find entry level positions, and especially as an international student, because you need a visa sponsorship. So the companies have to justify why they need to hire an international student, because if the domestic students are available, it's just going to get that much harder. So these are things to be aware of. It doesn't mean that people are not getting jobs, but these are kinds of things that are changing in the economic landscape around the world. Even the remote revolution. Remote revolution is a double-edged sword in the sense that it creates new jobs, but it also makes every job accessible to a global market. If a job that can be done remotely, it can be done remotely anywhere in the world. If it can be done remotely anywhere in the world, it will go to the cheapest location in the world. So it means that if you're going to study in an expensive location and the job can be offshore, that job is not likely to be located in that location anymore. So this is a trend that could happen. So and it is only going to happen because tools are getting developed quite rapidly. So companies are re-looking at their workforces, how they are going to design them, and these are actually happening. So even the kind of skill sets that employers are going to look for are going to be diverse skill set, not just technical abilities, but also adaptability, problem solving skills. And if jobs are going to be offshore, it means that you need to have skills to work across teams and functions across geographies, which basically means that you need to have good communication skills, good interpersonal skills. It is not just about your technical abilities alone. So these are kinds of skill sets that students must continuously upskill themselves and develop unique value propositions to sell to the employers. Because the way job market functions in Western countries, as opposed to India, for example, is that there are no campus interviews and so on in Western countries. The companies don't come to colleges to hire. You have to go to the companies. You have to position yourself. You have to sell your own skills. You have to tell them why you are a good candidate. And this is a very time-consuming and often a demanding process. It's not as it happens in India, where companies come to campuses, they hire. I mean, they interview and hire, and everything is over in a day. I mean, it's a long drawn process. People apply for months before sometimes they're able to land a position. So it means that you have to know how to leverage all your connections, have communication skills, have the necessary cultural skills. These are all softer things, but these are very, very important in landing jobs and being able to position and market yourself. The other important factor that's also increasingly one can see around the world is a little bit of more insular nature that companies are adopting with their visa rules. For example, in Singapore, Singapore has a very explicit rule on the minimum salary that has to be paid to any employee being hired internationally, who's not a Singaporean. So that and the hurdle is quite high. So that means that they want to ensure that the person being hired has sufficient skill set, that the employer is willing to pay that, and a local person is not available. So similarly, in the US, as we all have seen in the last month, Donald Trump is the new president, and we know what his policies on skilled immigration was even in his first term. The number of rejections for employer visas, H-1B visas, soared because he started scrutinizing the applications. He instructed the scrutiny of applications a lot more rigorously than that was before. As a consequence, the number of rejections increased dramatically. And America first is his first policy. So is likely to happen again, which basically means that, again, the visa laws are likely to become strict, which means that employers are going to have to prove much more strongly why international candidates are to be hired rather than domestic American candidates. So it only increases the bar, and it increases the hurdle for a prospect from outside of United States to secure a job. Now, this is not to say that these destinations are not to be looked at, but these are issues to be aware of. That's the reason why I'm just talking about these issues. It's not to encourage or discourage anybody, but these are issues to be aware of, so that one is prepared and one knows what is coming and what needs to be done in order to prepare oneself. Even the cost of applying for these visas for employers are also increasing. It costs an employer up to $25,000 to sponsor an employee. And not all companies are willing to do that. Smaller companies especially are not willing to do that. It's only the larger companies that are willing to do that. So these are challenges. And also, for example, it's far easier for an employer to justify hiring a PhD candidate as compared to a master's candidate, as compared to a candidate who's done just bachelor's. So these are factors to be aware of when one is looking to study and work abroad. The topic is much more bigger than this, because you have to look at unique subjects that you're interested in studying, you're passionate about studying, what the job market for those subjects are, what kind of universities you're planning to study, which are the good universities, which are the not so good universities. These are all things to look into, which is quite vast and beyond the scope that we could discuss today. But I just wanted to sensitize you to some of these issues, that when you embark on a interest of studying and working abroad, for you to look into these issues and dig deeper and do your own research. So with that, I would like to hand over to Mr. Venkatraman. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. And Mr. Venkatraman and I will try to answer them. But so you could go ahead. So we could leave the floor open to questions, and we could take questions for another 10 or 15 minutes. If you have any, please feel free to go ahead and ask questions.
I'll be the first to ask question. Thank you, Mr. Venkatraman and Mr. Swaminathan, for a very wonderful lecture today. This is Anand Mohan from IIT Hyderabad. So, question I had Mr. Venkatraman gave a lot of information on my question is for Mr. Venkatraman. You gave a lot of information on trends and happenings in Indian chemical industry. What is the reception of Indian farmers to the latest? There is a new product that is being marketed that is called liquid nano urea, and government has come up with a new plant in Kalol, Gujarat, and they are marketing it as an alternative to the normal kind of urea, the neem coated urea. So like the farmers, they don't have a liking for the biosimilar pesticides, and they are preferring synthetic pesticide. Is there some such reaction to this new product, which is touted as a game changer? what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Dr. Anand. It's an extremely important question. As a matter of fact, Nandini Consultancy has an opportunity to do an extensive study on nano-urea recently for one organization. So we had the met cross-section of farmers, scientists, researchers, and all that. The CRIPCO has developed the technology and brought it out, and they have not only done nano-urea, they are now developing nano-DAP also. But the ground reality is the farmers are not convinced. The level of capacity utilization of the nano-urea plant so far put up by this CRIPCO hardly 15 to 20%. Now more plants are being schemed. Now McMahon is coming with a particular plant. All these plants are operating at 15%. Technically, the scientists who have developed technology say this is on par, this will work together. But the farmers are used to urea for a very long time, and asking them to switch over from one form of urea to another form of urea, it's very difficult easy for an academician or for a researcher to tell them. But farmers are taking a calculated risk. And farmers, how they take decision in India today is essentially a community decision. Though the agriculture universities advise farmers, scientists advise farmers, a lot of technical service support are provided given, most of farmers take decision as a community in a particular villages and all that. So they have to be convinced. So what perhaps in my concluded study was, nano-urea, I'm not dispute the claims made by the scientists and researchers, but it is going to take very, very long time in India for the farmers to accept. Because to the level of they are going to accept nano-urea, to the level they have to reject synthetic urea. Okay, it's a substitute product. It's a very difficult decision for the farmers because temperamentally, psychologically, over a period of a lot of time, they have been using urea. So the consistent campaign has been done by the government of India for a very long time. I personally suggested to them not to create more capacities. That's what I told them, because capacity can always be created in quick time. There's no problem. For 6 months or 9 months, you can always do. You can do in 2024, I can do in 2032, there's no problem. My recommendations were provided was don't put further nano-urea plant. You already have enough capacity there. Get a capacity utilization of at least 70 to 80% before putting the nano-urea. So the right time for putting the next nano-urea plant has not come up so far. That is my view. But obvious for reason, my view has been rejected and more plants are coming up. This is the ground reality. I am not commenting on the efficacy or technical adequacy of nano-urea, which is kind of urea. But the marketing campaign, the acceptable level that farmers have to get, that we have to go for a very, very, very long way. Number of farmers we spoke to, they said they used once, they used it twice, and then they gave it up. I'm not getting enough choice because it has been applied on the leaf.
Yes.
When we confronted with the scientists, none of the farmers have not done it properly. They have to do it in a different way. And who is to go and tell the farmer? There are millions of farmers around the country. So this is slightly premature to expand all this. I'm not really commenting on the technology or the efficacy of nano-urea, but receptivity of the farmers for the nano-urea is not what it should be today as on today. That's my feeling. These have been done on the basis of extensive study from all over India. For obvious reason, I cannot say to whom I have done it and all that, but this is what is my conclusion. I got my money. I'm proud. Right.
Is there better reception for neem-coated urea because government has mandated it?
Neem-coated India comes at a different complexion. It's a different complexion. It's not like nano-urea. Because neem-coated urea is one thing. Because one reason for neem-coated urea was a lot of urea is a subsidized commodity. And technical grade urea has got also a lot of other applications like automobile fuels and blending and all this to reduce the emissions. So what happened is people are buying the fertilizer grade urea at subsidized price and using for purpose which is not for fertilizer. So naturally, this has to be coated by neem. When you coat by neem, automatically it cannot be used for any other purpose. That's one advantage. That has really provided the benefit. Secondly, the idea is when neem coated urea is there, this urea acts as both as a fertilizer as well as a pesticide. This efficacy of the pesticide portion of the neem coated urea, my humble feeling is not been conclusively established so far. Nobody is using neem coated urea just for the sake of thinking that it's going to solve the problem of pesticide application. Possibly some of the people who are using neem coated urea are also using other pesticides to combat the problem of That is the real ground reality today. But neem coated urea is a far better reception than the nano urea in this country today. There is no objection as such to this.
Thank you. Thank you for your answer.
Hello, good evening, Mr. Swaminathan Venkatraman. This is Shivashankaran. Are you audible?
Yeah, yeah, you're audible.
Yeah,
I can hear you.
I put the questions in the chat. You can go through. There are 2 questions related to chemical engineering. Hope you can just go through and give some brief on that.
Yeah, students are not showing interest to study chemical engineering. How to motivate them to choose chemical engineering in undergraduate? Nowadays, they are interested in computer science, engineering, AI, data science. In engineering colleges, there are more seats available for chemical engineering, but students are not aware of job scope in India and abroad for chemical engineering. Can you inform and brief the scope available for chemical engineering graduate for a job in India? Okay, I think the first question.
Can I just because we are teaching from CSDC, hundreds of students all over South India and Tamil Nadu and Kerala, so I can answer this question in a very brief way.
Yeah, please go ahead.
There are 2 things, Swaminathan. One is that the student asked why. The thing is that we ask students about whether they choose chemical engineering by option or by chance.
Yeah.
90% of the students say by chance.
Yes.
So aptitude is a big thing. Computer science, in my opinion, computer-related science are not engineering at all. It
Yes.
doesn't require any engineering skills or anything. And in fact, I'm a computer expert, and I develop software for chemical engineering, and I far excel than at my age. I'm 66 years old. I do for so. Chemical engineering requires it is very similar to life sciences, like the MBBS, a doctor.
Yeah.
So my advice would be, if you are not good in mathematics, if you don't have an aptitude, don't do chemical engineering.
Yes.
That is one thing. Second thing is that, Swaminathan, alluding to what you said, I always urge students to complete their education cycle. Don't look for employment in 3rd year. That means, so you will be most of the students will be frustrated and will failure. Complete your education cycle. If possible, if you have developed some intents in some areas of chemical engineering, continue to do study, complete the education cycle, whatever it is. Don't go to all these certificate courses. And these days the trend is to go for hundreds of certificate courses without knowing anything about chemical engineering. We ask students about what they want to study, what they are interested in chemical engineering. Everybody says heat transfer, mass transfer. We ask basic questions, they cannot answer. So my simple answer is that people don't want to take it because it's tough. You have to study, you have to work hard. This is the reason why people they don't want to stay. They don't want to take chemical engineering. Second is that even if you join this course, you have to study. Students have to study that. This is the reason. So if students are prepared to do this, no matter where you study, as Swaminathan said, no matter where you study, I have seen students that are academically excellent, excel on par with foreign students.
Okay, sir.
Yes, I concur with that. Thanks for your answer. I mean, that was a very good answer. I concur with that. I think studying non-computer science related engineering, I think, requires genuine passion. I think it's you cannot study a particular course because you just came into that course by chance. I think many people sometimes look into non-engineering courses as a stepping stone into a computer science job, because a lot of companies don't mind taking any graduate engineer for a computer science job. So they go through the course with the aim not to pursue the subject itself, but to go for a job related to computer science or related subjects. So that is one of the problems, I think, which is there. But ultimately, if the student is interested genuinely, I think he will do well. But I think the real core issue, I think, is a genuine interest to pursue the subject. I think
one more thing I want to add, Swaminathan, is that recently for about 250 students, there was a recruitment drive in a big industry, newcomer into Chennai, to India. And there's a big EPC company, very successful globally. So they recruited around 250 people, out of which around 40, I think 50 of them were chemical engineers, okay? And
Right.
rest of them instrumentation mechanical. And the first thing, I caution the students about the first thing they looked at was academic excellence.
Right.
This is the thing. This is the reality. And this is not the only company that I've seen. Dow does the same thing because for them, this is a Japanese company. Obviously, they attach a lot of importance to academic excellence.
Yes.
At Dow also, I always tell students that the first sign of your passion is about academic excellence.
Yes.
If you have arrears, please don't go. I mean, this is the issue. Okay, so academic excellence is very important. Do justice to the 4 years of study. That's my point.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
I concur.
Thanks. Thanks for your good brief on that. Thank you, sir.
Swaminathan, we are now completed in 90 minutes. I would suggest.
Sir, can I take 2 minutes to just give an idea about this topic that we talked about? So for India, the power options, I've been to China many times and I've seen the industries. So China doesn't have the problems of these provisional governments and all the state government policies and, especially judiciary, these green, all those things. Nobody plays a role in that. So, I mean, comparing China with India, India can never be with China, and we will continue to have this gap. Number two is that regarding coal, India already had, much before China, we already had coal gasification, coke oven gases in Tata, in Jamshedpur, many, 50, 60 years ago. So we continue to go for this coal gasification and gas to liquid technology in the future. So much before all these things, GTL came into place in South Africa and Sasol. So this is nothing new. We can easily adopt. We have the expertise and we have the similar know-how. So we are pioneers in steel making and cocoa and gas and sintering and all those things. So my point is that nuclear power is the answer for India going forward, and all these proton exchange membranes and green hydrogen are all big hypes. I don't believe in all these. The COPs, people came by private jet to discuss about the climate change. I don't believe in all these things. The key aspect, as Mr. Puri said, Minister, is we have, in Abu Dhabi this year and last year when we had this IDPEC, this was the main focus. And I made a point that we have around 80% opportunity into optimizing and trimming down the specific consumption of fuel and energy in existing plants in India. If we do that as a first step to optimize, to reduce the energy consumption, that itself is a big step, sir. This is my point. Thank you.
That's a very, very important point you have made. Very, very excellent. With regard to the coal gasification, you are right, absolutely right. Not only Tata, even the Naval Lignite Corporation was producing phenol and all this from lignite earlier. And with the petrochemical unit coming in a big way, the coal was not competitive, that's number one. Second issue with regard to Indian coal, which we cannot ignore, is the fact that ash content in the Indian coal is much higher than the ash content in Australian coal or Chinese coal. To what extent the cost of production of the coal from Indian product from Indian coal with high ash content compared to the coal chemical produced in China is, I think, a matter that is yet to be investigated adequately. Because that time when earlier we had this operation, of course, we are aware of the unit operations and all this, but the economic conditions change from time to time. And the present time, when with petrochemical being what it is, will this high ash coal be used as a feedstock for production of coal-based chemicals going to be competitive? And what is going to be an ecological issue is a matter that has to be, investigated.
Yes, sir. I agree with you, sir. In addition to that, now we have for refineries, we are coming up with a lot of coker units, delayed coker units. Like Mangalore refinery just put up to. So this pet coke also is very pure coke, with zero sulfur. So it will enable much more production of coke as an alternative. India needs a variety of spectrum of energy sources, including solar, wind, everything. the different energy densities, and we continue to depend on fossil fuels. But yes, you are right. And the ash content in Indian coals, largely, there are some low ash content coals also, but it is mostly used for smelters and all those power plants. And I agree with you, sir. Yeah, fully agree.
Thank you very much. Now, I would suggest, because time is up now, and any queries further what the respective participants have, kindly I request them to send a mail to us, and we will try our level best to provide whatever little we know about the whole thing. And further, if anyone would require this PowerPoint presentation to be sent to them, kindly send a mail to me so the entire presentation can be marked to you. And I thank you for all your cooperation and all this. Look forward to other opportunities to interact with you. All of us certainly enjoyed attending this webinar. Thank you very much. With all the best.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. It was very nice, enjoyable, and entertaining. Thank you very much and informative. Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Thanks to all the participants for making it, and we really enjoyed your presence. Thank you so much. With that, we conclude the webinar.